And I know in 2015-16, and I know we saw some of the students who would get rejected at these Irish institutions. I'm not even saying that in top one or two would end up getting 50% scholarship reversal groups in UK. So a lot of people say we moved to Ireland because UK crashed. I said no, I moved to Ireland before UK crashed. So again, good fortune.
What do you think is going to happen for next 3 years? You're pretty spiritual, or at least
I wouldn't say I'm spiritual now. I used to be spiritual about 20 years ago. I am not as much, but I do believe in being a good human.
Were you religious or spiritual?
I was religious.
Religious.
I was religious.
With the industry, there's lots of easy things to do, but not the right things to do. Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, midnight. Most of my audience, I was just seeing some analysis. Most of my audience is watching at 12 to 2 a.m. any part of the world. So wherever you are, whichever language you speak. So morning, evening, namaste, sabba khair, whatever. Let's see. I can't speak any language. So coming back to it, thank you so much. We've been seeing. Thank you for the love you've been sharing, and thank you with all the comment and all the feedback I'm getting. The beauty is when you're not doing for views. The beauty is when you're not doing for money. It's natural, right? So thank you so much for still watching 2 hours, 3 hours of those. I don't know how relevant they are, but the kind of love we are getting definitely seems we are doing something right. And again today, we got a very special guest. Someone which I got connected almost 15 years back. Around 15 years back. He's in industry for last 20 years, right? And as I always do, rather than me introducing someone which is beyond my, stature, why not I'll ask Suneet, from Fateh Education, do his own introduction. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Suneet, co-founder, CEO of Fateh Education. As Saurabh said, been running this for 20 plus years now, and been in the sector for almost 24 years now, just 124. So been a dinosaur technically, seen a lot of changes happen around the 2 decades plus which have been around. But a very, very interesting thing. I've loved my journey. I've enjoyed every minute. Of course, you had some frustrations, but I think it's been all part of it.
See, I keep meeting him, mostly in events and, people who knows about Fateh and people who knows about Suneet. So there's always one, you're known for, and see, I'm not sure if it's intentional or, it happened on its own. You're still in green, so you bleed green, right? So yeah. He is one of the, flag bearer and torchbearer for Island Education.
I would like to believe so.
How does that happen? It was conscious, it was natural, or it was thought process that okay, everyone's going after Anglophones, everyone's talking about UK, US, let me do a particular country, or it happened naturally? Over to you.
Well, I think it's a mix of both. I think there was a little bit of natural part to it, and of course there was a lot of, you can't totally leave it to natural thing as well. So I do recall, because we while we were at Fateh, we were also dealing with nurses earlier, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it. At that time we started working around Ireland, and when we were pivoting towards study abroad, and so Ireland was one of the first few countries we looked at, and were among the first few contracts we got. That was 2007.
And what was that contract?
It was with Waterford Institute of Technology, which is Setu, and University of Limerick. These were my first 2 contracts with Ireland. So we were looking at University of Limerick, we were looking at Ireland, one of the 2 countries, UK and Ireland, the 2 countries we looked at. And, or at least they were the ones who were most welcoming at that point for us, where we got our first few contracts on it. And Ireland at that stage had seen a bit of a high. There's a different kind of a wave which has come in, and, and that was kind of now dying down. So I remember 2007 we started, I think Ireland had peaked at about 1,000 students and was starting to fall. And by 2010 it was down to about 200 students.
And why did that happen?
I think there was a mix of everything else, because there was lack of interest at the institution level. The students which are going in were going in for small private colleges, where the visa office was not happy giving them visas. And we saw a couple of those colleges where they went up because they were small ones, they closed down. And so there was a bit of a backlash towards that as well. So, and the visa office clamped down and was not very easy giving visas. So we saw student interest start to wane. 2010, and I think that was the inflection point in many ways. And I do remember there are two distinct things which changed for me. One, we saw this new lady called Doreen who came up in Enterprise Island. She came with the idea, look, I need to make a change. We need to make Ireland back on the map in India, and let's work on that. Again, in the past 3 years, we've had people who had come in and said that, but we did not see the kind of drive which you saw it. And you could see it. She started to set up meetings regularly. She made industry groups. She started to take feedback. She took it back to to Enterprise Island back in Dublin, and we know some things were starting to move. Second, I think the big thing, and is UCD, University College Dublin, the business school, Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School. So they had a new lady managing India for them, Geraldine McCarthy, and she came in very hungry to make a difference. I remember my conversation with UCD early that year, and they said we're recruiting about 15 students from India, and most of them are from within Ireland already. So Indian students, but not necessarily from India. So if I can get about 20-25 from India, it'll be a big win for us. So that was an interesting thing, and I said, okay, let's give it a shot, because we're still very small, and for us 25 numbers also make a difference. And we said, why not? And we still made 25, still makes a difference for us. But then it was huge, massive. So let's try it. And so I started talking about Geraldine. So Geraldine met her, and she again had the drive to make things happen. So I recall Doreen had organized an the Enterprise Island Education Fair, and there was practically no walk-in. This was Bangalore. Okay, there was practically no walk-in. We were in the park, MG Road. Incidentally, at the same day or the same time, British Council was hosting their event at Taj, and those who know Bangalore, they're right next to each other. So what Geraldine does is she takes a bunch of flyers, goes outside British Council event, and every student who was walking out of that event, she got hold of them and said, Island. And anybody said, tell me more, she would catch hold of him and bring him all the way to the island thing. So there's not a consultant doing it. There's not anybody else doing it. This is one of the universities themselves who said, I'm going to get them, And then it moved on to Delhi. Instantly, we were clashing again with British Council. But this time it was not next door. So it was Lalit and British Council, not very far, but not next door as well. Geraldine actually hired autos to take people from British Council to Lalit. Okay. That, sometimes you need a spark. Now you know somebody's serious about it. They're going to put, when you deal with her, you're going to get your work done because she needs numbers. She's going to he will work it out. And not just at those 2 days, and when my team started to see that, and they said there was, there's seriousness around it. And in Delhi, so she said, let's get some students in. When we worked around to get a lot of students into her office and meet her and everything else. The interesting part, she start in the morning at 10. She spent hours spending with students, wouldn't wrap up before 8 or 9 at night, spending probably incredible amount of time you'd spend behind every student. And at 9, she wouldn't walk back to she wouldn't go back to a hotel. She would start working in the office. She said, these are students I've met, this is what I need to do. And the next 2 hours, she would be in office just doing up decisions, offers, printing off letters, handing it over to us and say, tomorrow morning, I want this in the hand of the student.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. I interrupt you here. I want to put a couple of things here, and please hold your thoughts. So you mentioned 2 anecdotes. One is British Council and Island events. It reminded me of McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll talk about the audience. Or probably go and read about McDonald's and Burger King strategies. And the other thing which really, I interrupted you because it's really important that, because I interact with lots of ICRs and university reps.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
Or people who are doing for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and the new lot. Not the new lot. Everyone's like that.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do it, but they are not seeing those spark with your colleagues. And imagine one person. I met this new university, or at least a university from US, who's trying to start or expand in India. Right. They're doing like 3-5 students.
Yeah.
So that where it reminded me that everyone start from 0 or 1 or 5. Everyone think that okay, UCD is UCD, TCD, TCD, but UCD also 15 years back were only 15 students.
Yes.
Over to you.
Yeah. So again, sometimes just that one inspired moment which kind of changes everything. So Geraldine, and I do believe she's probably the spark or the reason why Ireland did well, because that gave inspiration to my team. It gave them confidence that we can work with it. And we ran with UCD for that matter. The other thing very interesting at that time, and I must talk about this, was 2010, we were still not had come out of the financial crisis. And we used to talk about the PIGS economies then, which was Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain. So Ireland was not a good in a good shape, and for Indian students it was always about return on investment, still is and should be. So there's also the other question is how do you convince them? And with us we were very clear we wouldn't push a student if there's chances are low for employment, everything else. So again we worked with Geraldine. She advised us, these are the courses. Business analytics at that time it's just started to come out. There was a course called iBusiness. There were a couple of those courses, and she said, look, this is where we're good with, this is where we know there's going to be employment, let's focus on these courses. And she went back and ensured there were scholarships around. She worked around how I'm going to mentor these students when they get there and everything else around it, and she did. So we did end up about 24, 25 students in the first year for UCD. Okay. And the moment we did 25, everybody took notice and say, wow, India can be cracked. We saw UCD, Una came in at that stage because UCD felt there's a value to put at overall level. And Una again was a powerhouse. She drove the whole thing. But it also gave confidence to other universities to say, India should be taken seriously, And that's where we start to see institutions come back and talk to us and say, what should we do? How can we change? Some of the ones were very receptive, were happy to make changes as we suggested. We knew what we were looking at. We also identified what was good with the island, what courses, where this thing, and we started to market our students accordingly. Good thing about Ireland was the people were very friendly, very warm. Indian students loved the reception they got over there. They kind of settled down fairly easily. Despite the financial crisis, because we picked the right courses, Indian students started to find jobs. Then set off a cycle. Very interestingly, when institutions were talking to us about how do we bring more students in, and when they had gone to a couple of agencies, they had all talked about reducing the entry criteria, And we said, no, let's not go down that route, okay? Because, when you do that, you might get a short-term boost. You might not go for a longer-term perspective. Exactly. And in fact, we went the other way around. The entry criteria, we said, move it up, and let's see how it goes. And they did. And thankfully, because the quality of students who started to go was strong and good, the companies had a good experience with them, which meant next year they wanted those students back. There was another round of it. And that was a cycle which got kick-started. And so it was a self-sustaining cycle, students going there, good institutions, good feedback, good reception of the country, friendly people, and employment with top companies. They go back and tell their friends, you must go to Ireland. And that's how the whole cycle went on. And I know in 2015-16, and I know we saw some of the students who would get rejected at these Irish institutions. I'm not even saying that in top 1 or 2 would end up getting 50% scholarship at Russell groups in UK. And it was like, wow, how is it happening? Technically, they're much higher. But I think that was the beauty of how the system had taken off and how the cycle had taken off. So yes, I would say I would like to take some credit that yes, we did help build Ireland. Okay, but I do believe, and I still strongly believe, if it was not for Geraldine, Ireland wouldn't have ever taken off, because you need that one inspired moment. Standing for somebody from Ireland to come into India to drag students from one event to the other. I think that was an inspired moment.
You mentioned about taking some credit, right? For audience and people. I mean, who doesn't know Suneet, but people who have not able to met him in person. You always come as a very simple, no nonsense. Very simple, on the spot. Even I have seen you first time taking some credit. Because you're like always there, like always been enabler. So good to see that you're taking some credit. Or probably like my persona is rubbing on you. I don't leave any credit. I'm a career creator for student accommodation in India and abroad, and I have very clear. But coming back to you, tell me more about yourself, your background, your journey, your family. And how does you come into this?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, I think it was quite accidental. Obviously, not a planned thing to get into study abroad sector for that matter. Typical middle class family. We've been through our ups and downs. We've
Delhi?
had the Delhi,
Born,
born, brought
brought
up,
up in
lived mostly in Delhi, except for my 2 years in Calcutta when I was doing my MBA at IIM Calcutta. So been there in Delhi most of it, and obviously
See,
I've
this is
had
a difference, If I would have been from IIM Calcutta, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I have studied in IIM Calcutta, and you're like, just 2 years, went to Calcutta for IIMs and continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so I said our family as a family, we had ups and downs. The 84 riots hit our family pretty badly. I know there have been years when we had no food on the table. We've seen those as well. But I think that's probably made us a little bit more resilient to this, be able to take challenges and face setbacks, because I'd seen my father and I'd seen him not give up in life and see him fight every single time. And I know he's gone through a lot. And I think that probably rubbed on to us to say, okay, you need to be strong and you need to fight.
Yeah.
And, you can't give up without a fight, So I think that's been an inspiration for me, and that's probably pushed me through, what I wanted to do. So at IIM, my initial thought was to get into investment banking, work towards it.
And which year was this?
That was, I entered into 1999, so graduating in 2001. Year one, that's what the focus was. I interned with Merrill Lynch, loved the work. Okay.
What were you
Exciting. Huh?
What were you doing?
I'm in the M&A side, and I was helping the team which was working on then the biggest tech deal of that time. India Info being bought by Sifi, and Sifi was being listed. So that was the most glamorous deal ever at that generation. Okay, so I happened to be around there, but I loved the work. Okay, but I also realized it was very hectic. I'm somebody who likes my time. I remember my boss showing me an email from his daughter, and remember this is 2000. Okay, emails had just come in and could be as impersonal as they can be, and they still are. So he shows me an email from his daughter and says, "Dad, it's been many days we haven't met. Can you come home early?" And he says, "This is it. If you want to get into it, be prepared for something like this, And obviously, it gave me a little bit of perspective around should I not, and everything else around it. To be honest, when went back to year 2 for campus and started to work, I still focused towards banking for a moment, investment banking, speculating should I, restricted where I applied to a limited places where I felt it would be nicer, better. Instantly didn't get into the places I wanted to get in, but my the other option was banking, commercial banking. Went to HSBC at that time, probably the hottest bank in coming to campus. Worked with institutional banking. Insurance at that time just opened up in India, and these insurance companies had set up, collaborations in India. So I remember clients like Weil, Max New York Life, and Bajaj, and everybody else sitting in. So our idea was to sell banking products to them and say, use us as your key, this thing. So it's probably one of the most exciting projects happening at the bank at that point of time, but didn't excite me enough. Somewhere.
You're a very family person?
I am
You're a private person?
I am a private person. I am.
And all these networking parties, especially in banking, banking.
Yeah.
That was also a kind
I'm out of. I'm not. It's not me.
It's not you. And then you need to spend time with yourself, with your family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, my cousin had set up her own education startup and was doing well. And so, I was back in Delhi around Diwali, and we were talking about it, and she says, "Come join me, and we can, let's jointly build this up." And the company started to do well, and I did come back without thinking.
You want to name the company?
Jamboree. So Jamboree Education, so India's leading test prep company. So Akrita Bua's daughter, she's the one who set it up. Did an amazing job. She was, again, she's somebody
calibrator,
Oh, yes.
Again, yeah.
Yeah. She had a choice either to join XLRI or to build this. So unlike me, who chose to go to IIM, she chose to set this up. So she was kind of thing around it. Somewhere around 3 years we did well. Delhi, we did very well. We built up branch offices in Jaipur, Chandigarh, doing well. But just that we again.
They were more of that test preps.
Test prep, totally test prep. It was totally test prep at that stage. Again, unplanned. So in fact, when I joined and we were initially looking at, she said, let's do something else. And we initially, first few months, we actually worked on building a play school chain in India. And we pitched to a lot of investment banks as well, to venture capitals and everything else. It didn't work, and I think it worked out to the better.
I did a play school project in my MBA. I still remember Learning Tree. And I still believe, that is probably I have something towards education and towards kids, and but I believe still, there are lots of successful play schools in India. So there's still a good need for a chain, but probably we can collaborate.
Maybe another day. So that's where it was. Again, both she and I get along really well. And we're pretty communicative, and we know exactly each other where it is. And at some point we realized that, our paths may not be aligned after a point. Again, so we decided before it becomes bitter, let's try and go separate ways, very amicably. So I kind of left Jamboree on it. And so Akrita has been my mentor in many ways, and she still continues to be. I still reach out to her for a lot of things, and of course she's quite gracious to ask me for a lot of things as well. So 2004 we set up Fateh Education. 2004, interesting. Got married on 25th January 2004. Okay. 1st April 2004, I come back home and tell my wife Binti that I am no longer part of Jamboree. I've just decided to go away. And she was like, it's just 2 months into a marriage, right? And you kind of come and say, I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is where it is. Okay. And it was 1st April. So the first reaction was April Fool's, and it took a while for her to understand that I'm serious and I'm not joking. Okay. But again, Binti being Binti, with the pillar of support she's been in my life, and she said, let's build, let's go further. If this is what you decided, that'll be it. Again,
I have the same story, but we'll share off the camera. But continue.
Yeah, and again, I said sometimes you just need a one inspired moment,
or one person to be
one person.
Even they say that, okay, we are there.
Yeah.
Even if they are saying just for heck of it, but even if someone is there who's saying, okay, I am there.
Yeah. So again, when you left Jamboree, I took nothing from there, except I thought I'm going to take one person with me. Okay, and I said one inspired moment, and I want to talk about this. Jayati Sarkar. So we had just started IELTS over there. So IELTS was not very big in Jamboree, and we knew if I took that out, it wouldn't really matter at all. So I gave a call to Jayati at night at 8:30ish, maybe, again, 1st of April. Okay. And I said, Jayati, I think I'm going to do something around IELTS. Okay. And I need you with me. And she says, okay. She just asked me, what are you intend to do? I said, I don't know. She says, what is your company's name? I said, I don't know. She says, what will you pay me? I said, I don't know. She says, what is your business model? I said, I don't know. And I'm being very honest. She says, count me in.
Probably your transparency and please continue. I'm loving it.
And still, I'm still getting emotional because I still value that 1 minute from Jayati, because when she said, I trust you, I think Jayati Sarkar.
Okay.
And her saying, I trust you, and whatever you will do, I'll be behind you. And that, I said, again, another inspiration moment. And sometimes you've done with these.
You've been underplaying yourself. You're saying inspired moment and people supported you. No, they've seen and they're working with you. They've seen the real Suneet.
Yeah.
Today I'll come and say that, okay, do this for me. People will not do it, but if they're working with you, seen your conduct behavior over a period of time, they will be around.
Yeah.
So
I would like to.
Yeah.
Okay, so around the same time, we again, I said nature, how it is. I met this gentleman, Shakat Singh, ex-royal, basically comes from a royal family from Rajasthan and everything else. He was based for, he was doing, he set up a company called Sir Edward Dunlop Hospitals, trying to build some hospitals in the Northeast. And one of the projects he was doing was taking Indian nurses to Australia for healthcare companies or healthcare hospitals over there, because that's where it was. And he had reached out and said, our biggest challenge is they don't get their IELTS scores. What can I do? And that was just in the first 2 or 3 days is when we met, kind of thing. I said, okay, IELTS is what I was thinking. This is where it is. Let's build. Okay. So we spent the next 2-3 weeks working around how we're going to run this. We figured out because Jyoti had a lot of experience in IELTS, and this is where it will be. The other issue with Surrey Dunlops was they didn't even they wanted us to look into its marketing for them as well. So we figured out we're going to do some big seminars around. So around the first week of May, we ran a first seminar in Streetford Auditorium, jam-packed. Okay, and we started a batch immediately after that.
This was in 2004.
2004. And we got a first batch of 5 nurses over there. So usually, Australia at that stage needed 7 overall and 7 in writing, and I think some more things like that. Given the nursing background specifically at that stage, it was extremely difficult to get them out.
Yeah.
Okay, so of the first 5 nurses, we got 7 in all for all of them. Okay, random nurses which came in, and we kind of figured something around it. So we started to build around it, and suddenly
we were 2 of you.
Binti, me, and Jati. Okay, and then we hired a couple of more people as well, who were again very, very good. We got some fantastic team right up front, and I remember, at night or evenings, they used to take up the list of all the nurses and give them a call, because nurses work in shifts. So a lot of them will get over at 10. So they're working from 10 to 10. So what time do you call? You either call them before 10 in the morning, or you call them after 10 at night. So I remember Binti pick up the call at 11 at night, taking a whole list of nurses to call us. Do you want to join? So we adapted our programs around nurses. We built it around it, and our success rate was through the roof when it came to nurses. It didn't take a while for this to spread, and we did get approached by a lot of people. So after this, we had IFAN, which is Medicity Medanta's this thing. We had Max, and we had Fortis reach out. We did plenty of projects with both Max and Fortis, and again, IFAN, we did a lot with them. So 2007, we're doing very well by 2004 and 2007. I think it would have been hard to go to a hospital and not find a nurse who didn't know Fateh. So in 3 years, we had built that kind of thing.
You always been someone who focus on white space and niche, and then go deep.
Yeah.
Is there a personality trait like this, or you have read something or seen something? Because I've been observing your patterns. So and this is another validation that you take in white space, go deep. Blinkers on, and then make a
I am of this firm philosophy. I think it's Jack Welch or something, which says if you're in a space, either be 1 or 2 or don't be there. And so I'm kind of that. So when you start on a certain idea, then you're very clear. You have to be 1 or 2. You have to chart your way to 1 or 2. If you think you can't get there, find something else. So that's where the nursing thing also started off. So 2007 was a very interesting year, end of 2007-ish, is because there were a lot of changes which happened. European Union expanded. So a lot of nurses which were going in to, let's say, Ireland and UK weren't needed, because the Eastern European countries, when they joined in, a lot of the healthcare workers.
But you were sending these nurses mainly to Australia too?
No, we were then, because as we went along, we, because with all the companies we were working with, Australia, UK, Ireland, US. So most of these big ones were US. Because US was the big order thing, and they would, every quarter they would want to send about 500 each of these companies, and it used to take 2 years to send one, because you need to take your CGFNS exams and the NCLEX at that stage. So you had 3 stages. You had IELTS, then CGFNS, then NCLEX before you could go in. So there's plenty of carrying costs and everything else, and it required, we worked it out, it was about 3 lakh rupees per nurse as the carrying cost. So if you're dealing over a 2-year period, and if you're dealing with that kind of thing, you needed at least 200-300 crores of money, which we didn't have. And that's the reason why you had the likes of Fortis and IFAN and all of these companies working.
We didn't have, now we have?
I still don't have it. I still don't have it. So nursing. So I was saying 2007, European Union expanded. UK, Ireland no longer needed, because we had these European countries which had joined in, and they were like all Russian influenced countries. They had a lot of healthcare workers, Australia changed the rules as well. Their IELTS requirement went up. Something else also changed.
Beyond 7?
So they made it, I think, 7 in all. So it just needed 7. They needed 7 in all, and they made some more changes around it. US, this was the time Obama got elected, and there was a special category for nurses that went away. And that's why a lot of these companies which are working with the nurses on the US front had to shut down immediately after that. So 2008 was a difficult year, because suddenly everything we'd worked for the last 4 years had come to a halt. So 2007, 2008 is when we had to pivot. And we looked at things and we said, okay, let's get back to study abroad. Didn't want to get into test prep, because was there a Jamboree? Didn't want to compete against Jamboree. It wouldn't be fair, because, didn't want to get into US market. And again, the easier ones to look at, is because we were there in UK and Ireland because of nurses. That's the country which came in, and that's why I said that's how we started off on it.
So from 24 to 28, it was starting period, and nurses to Australia, to UK, to Ireland, right? And then to 8, you started with study abroad,
Yes.
and you didn't go into test prep because you didn't want to compete with your mentors and with your families. Same situation. I mean, I shared with you. I feel so connected. I'm like, the movies, going again. So then, post 2008, then,
Yeah, that's why we pivoted. So we worked with both UK and Ireland. We got about 2-3 contracts both with Ireland and UK almost simultaneously. We talked about the Ireland ones. We said Limerick and Waterford is what we got. We added University College Cork after that. And so in the first year, we had about 4 or 5 from Ireland. And UK, we got University of Leicester and Strathclyde as the first year itself. Instantly around 2007-8 when we were pivoting, and that's where got in touch with Vikash. It just again, I said sometimes things just happen. We just met.
Yeah.
We just met, and I think we just decided to work together, combined, Gateway, Crisac, which was then.
Tell more about this, because I have a pseudo understanding, have understanding of this, and I'm sure in industry also there are lots of people who probably are not aware, and then they have their own assumptions.
Yeah.
So if you want to double click on this.
I'll tell you, I would only give you very little, because again, I think it is a very complicated relationship. It's very difficult to kind of bring it out, and that's the reason why people don't understand. Anybody who tries to look deep into it probably sees nothing, and they go when they look outside from it and say there's everything around it. Yeah, so I'd say Vikash and I, we met just because his brother-in-law walked into our office. So we were doing IELTS, and that stage we said let's expand IELTS first, and we built up 3 branches. We were in Ashram because that was a hub for nurses. We were in Patinagar. We had started off in a garage in my own house. So my business was literally the proverbial garage in the home, and that's where we started. So
you're an OG of startups in higher education.
It depends on how you put it.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we had set up a space in Noida. Okay. So Noida, we picked up a very big space, about 3,000 square feet of space at that stage. We were still small for us to pick something as big. I think probably a folly, because when we built 3,000 square feet space, it wiped out a lot of our capital trying to do it up. And then, unfortunately, we got nothing out of it. We didn't get people walking in and everything else. We probably picked a long location, maybe on those lines. Anyway, so Vikash's brother-in-law, Kamal, who was initially also helping Vikash with this area, walked into our office and says, you're into IELTS, we're into study abroad. Can you refer students to us? And I said, okay, maybe we'll think about it, but I don't think I'm interested in doing something like that. And so he said, okay. Nonetheless, he said, meet Vikash. And we got along really well. I think there was a bit of trust built in from our first meeting, and we worked through a lot of strategies and said, this is what we're going to do. So he had about 3 or 4 universities contracts he had got. We had about 3, I had my first 2 in UK and about 3 or 4 in this thing. We just decided to work together. And we've been working together now for 17 years. And there's a lot of trust on both sides. And I think that's probably what's kept us going.
So from my understanding also, so how is the relationship like? Okay, one is Gateway Award. That's an independent identity. Then you are running your, Fateh, Education, and then so Crisac is is it an online platform?
Yeah.
It's a
okay.
B2C
So I
brand.
wouldn't want to talk too much about that side, because I would rather that's Vikash's side to talk about. But I'll tell you, Crisac is the newer version of Gateway. So Gateway Abroad was the earlier version. So Crisac is the updated version of it. Let's put it this way. Okay. And so Crisac came in when Gateway phased out. So they were built into the phase 2. Yes, so that's how UK and Ireland we started to push around it. 2009 was big year. 9, 10, 11 were big year because UK had changed the rules and made it a little too easy, and there was a lot of business coming from UK.
Yeah.
But
so that's the phase I got into this market. Right? Yeah. Not exactly that phase. I got into 2011.
2011. I think that's when the crash came.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I got into this market, there were 40,000 students, and the next year were 8,000.
From
8 to 12 to 18 to 28 to 40. And then of course 40, and it's always been stable to 40 to 70, 150 to 70, 80 this year.
70,
70, 80.
Yeah, I think 70, 80. Yeah, I would reckon so as well.
Yeah.
So that's exactly. So so for us, so we were focusing on UK like everybody because we felt that's where the growth was. But while UK was happening, that island thing happened. you know. So that island thing happened. So a lot of people say we moved to Ireland because UK crashed. I said no, I moved to Ireland before UK crashed. So again, good fortune. Just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Like most of things in my life, I would say.
Yeah. And that happens, I agree to it. If you go by the nature, you go by the flow. At time we all try to be too intelligent, too over-strategized, try to read between the lines, but if you just back your intuition, work hard and be ethical, things happen.
Yes.
And of course it takes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Today's generation, today's startup world, and with all those money around, everything needs to be 3 years, 5 years. But anything substantial takes 15 years. At least that's my story.
I agree with you. And I said it is, and again you'll have to. I said there are a lot of setbacks around it as well. So I said we saw that change with UK when the nursing change happened. We told you we set up the IELTS centers and we shut down 2 of them and realized it won't work. Let's do something around abroad only. So we're back to the garage and only in the garage. Before we moved out and took a space, a little not very far from it. So we had a choice which office to retain, the one in the garage or the one in ashram. And we chose the one in the garage. I said I won't travel. I'll get people to travel. I said this is not the market. Nobody comes to Patain Nagar for study abroad. You need to be in South Delhi. I said no, I wouldn't travel. Probably a little bit of overconfidence, I would say, a little bit of this thing. But I was like, I'd rather spend the time thinking. And again, for myself, it worked. Because I think in a way it worked because there was nobody around. But there was a big audience in that part of
That's quite a bold move or arrogance also.
Yeah.
But also in hindsight, there's a move by someone who is very confident about what they are doing, or at least they have a clear thinking and not going or just following the herd.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be in a narrow place.
Absolutely.
And it's the same. Generally I need to be in narrow place or in CP because that's where the B2B partners are.
Right.
And I'm like, firstly, I didn't have and still don't have money to have big offices in narrow place at CP. Secondly, we'll talk about this, probably off camera or on camera. There's lots of poaching and lots of, lots of gray area in this market, cutthroat competition, and you have gone through it.
Yes.
In fact, whenever people say, why you not getting admission? I'm like, I am not meant for it. I can't compete like this. I'm happy to have my little white space. But yeah.
Yeah, so we had, so again, I'll tell you, it was, I'd actually dissected the market as well because for me it was that the North and the West had a lot of money. And I felt getting them to travel to the other side of Delhi is probably they're being underserved as well. Again, how I looked at it was, South was a little bit, it may not hold as much today, but if you go back 16, 17 years, South was old money, West and North were new money.
Yeah.
And we generally, my experience was US was old money.
You play under, but see, these are insights. People don't know and they talk like, oh, we know everything.
Yeah.
This confidence is coming from that deep understanding of insights, human behavior, consumer, insights, and you are just underplaying it. And there are people who just got into markets and like, oh, I knew it, I am this and that, but I'm living. Please.
No, yeah. So for me, it was like, my experience, again, Jamboree had seen it. So we felt US was a new money market. Old money. People with old money, because US is more expensive, it needs a little bit more. So we realized the old money prefers US. UK because being cheaper, faster to get there, lesser entrance tests. It was a typical new money kind of a need to it. Of course, things have now started to blur. But if you go back 17, 18 years, it was a lot more clear than it is today. And so for us, we felt we were going to be closer to the market we are going to deal with.
And when you started in 2008, till how long you were only doing Delhi as a market? I know you have like 10 branches, more than that.
We have about 10, yes.
10 branches. Yeah. So, and when you move from Delhi to out, but before that, I'm aware that you spent enough time in Delhi before you even thought of second city.
Yes.
Yeah.
We moved out in 2010, around the time Ireland was building up for us. When we started to see a little bit of action around Ireland, but because we were already seeing some action in UK, because I said UK was booming. Again, it just so happened, my cousin was getting married, the sister of Akrita, who I said my mentor as well. So we met at her marriage, and she says, we have a space in our Chennai office. Why don't you set up an out thing over there? They said, okay, but I don't have systems integration.
That's why I tell everyone to attend marriages in India. You get your soulmates, you get your business partners, you get your investors. Marriages are amazing networking thing in
Yes.
India.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So our first year and a half in Chennai was an implant in Jambodi's office. Gave us an understanding of how to build systems around it. Obviously, in that period, Jambori needed space, so we moved out. Again, we had to innovate because we were a small office. It didn't make sense to take a big office space. Everybody talked about taking, you need to replicate everything else. And I said, I don't want to go beyond 2 people in the first year and a half or 2. I'd rather just see how things are working. Then the only way
You learn
was
your
to-
lessons and
yeah. So I thought we could do it too with Jamboree, and we could do it outside as well. So we looked at only 2. So we worked to identify business centers to work with. So we were probably the first education consultancy to work out a business center. Again, people said a risky move because when you look at a business center, they say because it's a market which you could be. How do we trust you?
Trust is very
You're probably here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that trust factor and things would come in, and the people said it won't
And
work.
they had to in a market like Chennai.
In Chennai.
And a brand from Delhi.
Yeah.
And we all know, North and how much North and South loves each other.
Yeah.
And that too Chennai and Delhi.
In Chennai, Delhi. Yes. So, but yeah, we did. We worked on a business center. We said we'll pick a little nicer business center. We worked with APJ then, which was pretty nice school at that stage. We didn't have the likes of WeWorks and things like these, which are coming now.
So this was in
2011.
2011.
So it took us a while. Again, we struggled with Chennai was getting the right people. There was a day which came in and I had nobody in the office, a running office team, students with us, and not one student in it. And I said, I've been pretty lucky with the people I've had. So I've had Neha, who was in Delhi. I said, Neha, I'm struggling. She says, send me there. I'll spend as long as you need till the time you find the people over there. And she just moved. She was staying in a hotel. Not that we couldn't afford fancy hotels, but she was good with that. And she went there and she said we found the next people and she trained them in. And before she came back to Delhi,
So till then, how many students you were doing?
I think we were couple of 200 something or something overall. Delhi, Chennai combined, 200 odd, 200 something.
Which is a pretty good number, even from today's standard. But when you are building a category, building a market,
Yes,
200 is a substantial number.
200 because it was largely at that time more UK, less Ireland because I said
UK, there were
2011
tailwinds in UK,
we got that 25 students. Yeah. So Neha was brilliant with that. But yeah, business center, but we evolved the model around it, how we're going to build trust around people. So those are things we solved in that period. We thought we solved it well. And that's the reason why that became a template. Then any city we moved into, in fact, till date, every single city we are in a business center. We haven't felt the need to move out. We've faced that questions everywhere. But because we solved it once, we solved it twice, now we know how to solve it. For the first time, we are now moving to our own space in Chandigarh. We were in a business center in Regas, so we were in Regas, but the problem with Chandigarh is the business centers are small. It's just not giving us space to the level of we need. So it's been a push out.
But in Amritsar, you have your own space.
No, we don't have anything in Amritsar.
Well, that's a different...
Yes, we'd be facing that in terms of people misusing a brand in
Which
Punjab.
it's a very, as a founder, it's a very flattery way that, okay, validation, but again, I thought it's your brand.
No, it's Punjab. We've actually just moved in about 12 months ago. It's been a year.
Oh, I thought it's in it's with the name is similar. Even the branding.
Oh yes, we recently tried. We even called them and said, yeah, we have the same people from Delhi, and so we know somebody they're impersonating. Okay. But yeah, as I said, it flatters at some level, but it also is because
of course, impacts
our business and
brand
because anything they do comes back on us.
There's something happened with the social media also off lately.
Oh,
want to highlight that?
Oh yes, we've had.
I've been following your journey.
Yeah.
And you are one of our strong business partners.
Yes.
So get to know a few things. But yeah.
Well, we've had a tough 2024. We've been subjected to some severe cyber attacks. We've had DDoS attacks. We've had manual, interventions on our landing pages and people reporting our pages out, and bots creating trouble around it. We've been working with some really good companies around to how to mitigate it. For about a period of 3 to 4 months, there was an intense attack on all our social media and marketing properties. Not on a regular, work or something or databases, anything else. It was outright attack on our marketing properties. In this process,
and do you think it's someone like from the industry?
I can't say anything at all. Saurabh, it's very hard to judge. But
because
yes,
this
we
is-
did not get a
in last 15 years, I have
ransom.
not heard this, and
Yes.
and especially from someone like you've been always been so straight, always been so cordial to everyone, and
Yes.
everyone talks so good about you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we don't know. Really don't know. It could be a board kit somewhere.
At time I feel when you're too good, people
Yeah.
try to take you for granted, try to push it to a level wherein like, do you question that because there's that that grade, right?
Yeah.
I don't know it too good. The people take easy about us.
Yeah.
Like that, it make you think this way.
See, I'll tell you, obviously, all thoughts cross your mind, in terms of who's done it, why is it. It sometimes frustrates you. We're still human, all of us are.
Of course.
And so, you keep thinking about it. But, every time I've looked at it and said, instead of trying to focus on who did it, there's very little you can do about it anyways.
Makes sense.
Let's see what can we do to prevent it for future. How do we work on it? Again, the team rallied behind it because they know there were no inquiries coming for good 2 or 3 months. The team rallied around it and said, okay, we will mitigate what's in front of us. We'll play with the cards we have and see what it would be. But the whole process, because you talked about social media, we lost our Instagram handle. So while we were protected in a lot of things, we managed to stabilize a lot of the aspects. Our marketing did go down for a couple of months for that matter. But our big loss was we lost our Instagram handle, which was running for many
worked
years.
hard. I know
worked
you
hard
like
on it.
you got some fancy, if I can use that word, some
Yeah.
fancy ambassador.
Oh yes, we worked with David Malan, who was then the world #1 for T20.
T20, yeah.
Yes, the T20 batsman. So we worked with him, and again we did a lot of stuff on our Insta.
What was the thought of onboarding David Mala?
Okay, this was 2021, 2020 actually, not 2021. So 2020, midst of COVID, everything was virtual. Question for always people was, how do we trust you? Who are we dealing with? You're doing virtual
People are
events.
moving to online.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say you're doing a virtual event. And if you're doing a virtual event, it's like, is that person sitting in an office or is actually sitting in UK? So you could have a UK this thing, but the question was, where's that person from? So we had those credibility questions come up. We were good enough brand in Ireland. We were building ourselves in UK. So that question was still coming up for that matter. And we kind of looked at how do we build credibility in the eyes of the students who are dealing with us virtually to say, yes, trust us. We're not one of those people who will just run away. Because it's not like a usual time where you could just walk into an office and pull somebody's ear or go and check what's happening. There was no physical meet. So that's where the whole idea of bringing in an ambassador was, let's add credibility. Let's get people to say, look, we can get them on it. We really didn't see...
did it work? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, it did. See, I'll tell you, it depends on how you look at it. We were very clear, he will not get us new business. Okay.
It was branding. It was branding, creating trust.
It was
and
pure
trust
trust.
in the UK segment.
Yes, so it was building trust both at the institution level, because again, we were expanding at the UK side of it. It was building trust with the students. So we knew it will never bring us new business. It's not that people will suddenly say, oh, they're working with David Malan, we need to go to them.
Yeah.
But people who had reached out to us to say, David Malan is our ambassador, so trust us.
Right.
So it was about using a regular marketing generated inquiries we were, but the people who would have walked away to somebody else, it is said, don't walk away, trust us. We will get you there.
But did you feel it?
Oh, I think it did.
Yeah.
I think it hit its
I'm
mark,
not a familiar of having a celebrity brand ambassadors. I would rather work on myself and become a face of the company than hire someone like Amitabh Bachchan, which I can't afford. And we might, but like again with this, at this era when everyone is trying to create distribution, everyone wants to be face of the company. There's LinkedIn, there's social media. I've been doing a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I can see the advantages to it. Definitely take you from your core, because see, this is not our natural, right? We are building it up, right?
Right.
But again, I come from a background that rather have a student stories and student faces with their real
absolutely
testimonies rather than having a David Mala or John T. Rhodes, because someone approached me for John T. Rhodes.
Is it?
And probably that we have a common agency.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
probably.
Yeah, is it? Okay, so I'll tell you yes and no. I'll tell you there's a need and a place for everything. So there's a need and place for a brand ambassador. There's a need and place for not to have it. Yes, a sector, yours or ours, both, kind of it works on trust, it works on referrals. I don't think we can eliminate that aspect. I think most of your business comes through referrals, most of my business comes through referrals. Most of marketing will probably build top of the funnel. See, the drip comes through referrals, or your the feedback you build from your students, and how the experience has been. And I think that's so yes.
That's a good thought.
If you probably bring in a brand ambassador or something like that, it'll probably build a top of the funnel. It'll not drip it down, Or if it is anyway, you have a good top of the funnel and you're probably struggling for it to drip down. Maybe a brand ambassador gives that little extra push to kind of squeeze it out to say, okay, go ahead and build that up.
Makes sense. So coming back to your journey, and also while we are covering your journey, we are, people who are already in the industry for 10, 15 years, they know that it's cyclical. There's a seasonality.
Right.
And then if America sneezes, or if Australian, government feels that there's some risk, we all bore the brunt, right?
Yeah.
With ever evolving higher education industry, landscape, what do you think is going to happen for next 3 years? Because while I was talking to you, so there was a 2004 to 2007 phase for you, 2008 to 2011 phase for you, 11 to 15 was probably more stable and growth phase, and then 15 to 20 more competition, aggregate.
15 to 20 was a big. That was the time where we really grew the most.
Because there was a compound.
Yeah, it was compound.
And then you have good universities, good brand. The macro has been growing. And there were new markets coming in. But then somewhere, as I was discussing with you, it was a conscious choice, or it happened wherein like, okay, let everyone fight for US, Canada's of the world. I'm happy with Ireland and have a 50-80% share of that market.
Yeah. See, I'll tell you, Saurabh, again, a lot of it is also dependent on your own factors. See, I said I'm very clear about being a marketer.
Are you spiritual? It seems you're pretty spiritual, or at least...
I wouldn't say I'm spiritual now. I used to be spiritual about 20 years ago. I am not as much, but I do believe in being a good human.
Were you religious or spiritual?
I was religious. I was religious. I'm pretty much
because you were saying 20 years back you were spiritual and now you're not. I'm like...
No. You're right.
This is very different, because mostly when you are... we are growing and you are at other side of 30 or 40. You become more wise, wisdom. Religious, yes. Because you've been taught that way. So you were more religious, and now you're more spiritual, or probably...
No, I wouldn't call myself spiritual. I think, as I said, I just let myself flow with the...
The flow state is spiritual.
Yeah.
It can be some philosophy.
Yeah.
Or it can be just follow the nature.
Yeah. So your question about 2015 to 2020, why we not looked at 2017, we were doing well, but we were also bootstrapped. Okay. It's not a point where...
But that by choice.
Yeah, that was by choice.
That's by choice. You're an investor banker. You can raise n number of crores for that matter.
Yeah, so we bootstrapped, and somewhere we had to take
it's like आपकी आपने मिठाई देखी है, तो इसलिए वो वाले हलवाइयों की यार मीठा तो अच्छा नहीं होता, इसे बेचो.
नहीं, वो नहीं. I'll tell you. Also, the other thing for me, sort of was the fact is, I told you why I did not go into investment banking is because I do value time for myself and my family and everything else. So the fact is, when I take somebody's money, I have to work around it. So currently, and I think you probably know this, every year in June I kind of disconnect. I take 3.5 weeks off every year. Just switch off myself.
That's a luxury.
Yes, and
that is wealth. That is wealth.
Yeah. So I do that, and I'm not doing it now. So when you're not making money, I would still do that then.
You have a week every year.
Every year, 3.5 weeks in June.
Earlier
it used to be September.
On the trot.
On the trot, where my team knows they will be very.
I need to learn that system, the processes wherein you are away for 4 months or 4 weeks, and that to almost peak of your intake, right?
Yes. Earlier it used to be August, September. But then when the kids went to school, there was no choice but to move it to June. And so with June where it is, so I think the team steps up.
You're money rich.
Yeah?
You're money rich.
Not money rich, but yeah. So the idea is then that's what you do. Just take 3 weeks off, 3.5 weeks off, kind of disconnect, because when you come back a lot more recharged.
For sure.
Even though you may not have kind of said, I'm focusing on work, but somewhere along, because you're not under pressure, you come back with all the questions you were not able to answer. You come back with answers, and you come back with the exact thing, what I'm going to do over the next few months. You kind of let it go with that. And you said one of the reasons I said, why not funding? Because I felt there are things like these. I have a lot of idiosyncrasies like these. There are times when I say I don't want to work. I don't want to work. I can't do that. I can do it when it's my money. I can't do that
No,
when
I
somebody
agree.
else's money.
Agree.
It will not be fair on my part to do it.
Agree. And also probably after working 20 years, I believe I see funding as two things. One, either you raise as early as possible, which is very tough and next to impossible now in today's era. Gone are the days, IIT, IIMs, you're just aping a idea. Or, you raise it once you are like at a level wherein like you're raising with your terms and conditions and they want to be so interested to invest that you work as per that.
Oh, you get those. You get a lot of those which will come in and ask you for what are your terms and things like these. But Saurabh, again, I'll tell you, I've never been motivated by money. I love my money, no doubt about it. Who doesn't? Money does matter.
Yeah.
But it has not been my motivating factor. Okay, not now, not earlier. As I said, it took me. I was telling you, it took us 7 years to break even, 10 years to to cash flow positive.
And you don't come from a very wealthy family, as you mentioned.
I would say we've had our
manage?
struggles. I said we've had those periods when we had those downs. So my father stuck with it as well. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't come from a wealthy family. I know we've had our bad periods. I told you a time where we did not have money, we didn't have food. So I've seen those periods as well. And because I've seen those, that's probably one of the reasons why I don't associate too much on money, because I don't put emphasis on money for that matter, because I know it's transitory.
Byproduct,
You have your good days, you have your bad days. I've seen a lot of people around it. So it's never moved me. And that's one of the reasons when I've looked at the business, it's never been about getting investor, make it 5x or 10x. It's always been around, okay, what are we trying to do? Let's enjoy ourselves. As long as we're enjoying ourselves, we being where we are today, and it's a very honest thing, is not by design. I mentioned that to you earlier as well. We've just happened to come in. We've been looking at enjoying ourselves. A lot of times, every single time when I get into a question is, what should I do next? And you're kind of confused and everything else. My answer is, let's enjoy ourselves. Let it resolve on its own. The idea is if we prioritize the impact, the social impact we can create, which we do, and that's what I said. We talk to our team every few days. We talk between our team is to say, not numbers. We don't, when I talk to my team, and it's very rarely will I discuss numbers with my team.
So refreshing.
I rarely discuss numbers.
विश्वास नहीं हो रहा. If I be honest, मुझे विश्वास नहीं हो रहा. You're running a profitable business, running it so well. Saying you don't talk numbers to your team every now and then. Definitely, after a point in time, money is just a byproduct, right? And especially when you're in this industry for 20 years, we have earned enough wherein the basics are taken care, or more than basics are taken care. But still, when you're running a business, 10 branches, 200, 300 people, we need an input. We need those cash flows, right? मुझे विश्वास नहीं हो रहा.
In fact, very recently, because 2024 was a tough year I told you, for a lot of reasons, because we had, the market was down, when we had a marketing which was not working. So we had a double impact on this. So this is probably the first year after probably, I don't even remember when I've actually spoken back to my team and counselors to say, how much are you doing? What's going to happen for next year and things like these. But if you speak to my team, I don't think anybody will tell you that I ever asked them, what numbers you'll end up doing, where are we headed. We've always talked about what are the student issues we're coming in, what can we do with this thing, what can we build further on it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons is why our team stuck. So we rarely have people leave us in this thing. So, as I was telling you, people either leave in the first 3 months or they don't leave. At least that was till very recently. As obviously as teams grows, things start to change a little bit over there as well. But one of the reasons is because we've always focused on students, social impact, creating value for people around us. And I said money has been a byproduct, because I said after a while it doesn't matter, and then you start chasing is what you really associate yourself. For us was the impact we can create. And the reason why team wouldn't leave, and why do I have people who joined me 20 years ago, Jyoti is still with me, or people, Anjali, Neha, who I talked about then, they joined in 2006, so they're still around. So people who joined between 2004 all the way till 2018, rarely has anybody left. Most of them are still around. You come in, you'll see them again every day, and it's not that they don't get offered for higher salaries and everything else.
We are talking about industry wherein
so they've been offered 2x, 3x salaries. and they still declined. And the reason why they've declined, my understanding, is because I think they started to enjoy the work they were doing, the impact they were trying to create, because the idea was, because we would never put money as this thing. So as I said, today we're successful. We'd make a lot of money, okay, but money has been a byproduct. It was not the objective. And that's what I said. So today, every time we kind of get stuck as to how do we resolve it, we say, can we enjoy ourselves? Can we create an impact? Because we know, having seen that, we know eventually it will make that money for us.
So, so you mentioned about 2024, right? And while I was talking to you, I created like almost in last 20 years, 3 or 4 phases. 2004 to 2011, 11 to 15, people like you grew leaps and bounds. 15 to 20, again, you leaps and bounds, but there was competition, there was, all kind of people, aggregators coming in. We ourselves the aggregator or student housing, right? But, platforms coming in, money chasing startups, lots of not so good things been happening. And then pandemic happened, right? People who were strong, they grew 3x, 5 or 10x, People who were looking for a phase exit or a, like some reason, they vanished, right? And then 2020 to 22, 23, people like, this market boomed like anything, and last 1 year, again, I guess it's the first time, and probably you can be better person to validate or throw lights on this. At least in my last 15 years, I've not seen a year wherein all the 4 countries, been going through their own challenges. Election in 42 universities, 42 countries, and everything, everything is like falling down. Canada, Australia, whatnot. What's your take on this? How you see this?
Oh, I agree with you. I haven't seen this kind of thing, because here you also need to understand this. The numbers we are today, those kind of numbers never existed earlier as well.
This is at peak.
Exactly. So so when you were dealing with, let's say, the market, let's say if you go back 10 years ago, we were not talking about 700,000 Indian students going. We were still talking about 100,000 Indian students going. So
so the number 700,000?
700,000, I think that's what
because
the government
these numbers
said.
are, we do lots of reports, right?
Yeah.
In fact, not trying to take credit, and on record I'm talking, 1.3 million is what we came up with numbers, and these are very genuine numbers.
Okay.
But if someone challenge me, I still am not 200% sure.
Okay.
Because on 1.3 million, as per me, around 500 to 600 students are new students. Then there's second, third year students. Then there is a student from India who are in Dubai, which are technically added to the 1.3 million. How you bifurcate this?
No, I would kind of agree with you where you're coming from, because even I would say 1.3 probably includes the returning students and probably includes the Middle Eastern students, Indians working in Middle East and sending abroad. 700,000 as I'm using what the government gave out in the parliament to say these are the fresh new students which have gone.
And in addition, those numbers are coming through us. I mean, I'm not trying to take credit, and I'm scared also that someone's gonna question me. I'm like, see, these are my.
No, I think they were using immigration stats, because people when you leave, you pass
that
the
was our
immigration,
input also.
you kind of you
Very,
give the reason,
very data.
you give the reason around. So I think that's what the numbers, and if you kind of add up all the big countries, it will come up to similar
1.3.
Yeah, so 1.3, and I said about 700-ish kind of a thing. But if you go back 10, 15 years ago, we're only talking about less than 100,000 new students, not about returning students. So it's easy to move 5,000 students from here to the other without it failing it. When you're at 700,000, even one market sneezes, it has an impact overall, know. And obviously we had all markets sneezing, because all of them were, one of the reasons is because the numbers were unprecedented for all of them. While we say we've never seen all 4 of them go down at the same time, but if you go back to 23, we've never seen all 4 of the countries do as big as well. So it's the same coin, both 2 different sides. You will have your up and you have your down. So if you peak together, you will fall together as well.
What do you see next, like 2025 and in next 3 years?
Okay,
and if you can share market wise.
Okay, so I'll tell you, Saurabh, I wouldn't see, when I look at the market, I wouldn't look at the entire thing. I look at my market. My market is students who are seriously looking at education, where education before anything else, which are using it as a vehicle for building a career. Okay. The smarter guys realize that career doesn't mean career is different from passport. Okay.
Absolutely.
So there are some people who come in who would prioritize a passport over a career. Okay. The smarter ones realize a career over a passport. Okay. A lot of them now realize, when we speak to these students, a lot of them realize that the next 2 decades are India's decades. The opportunities you will have in India are going to be unprecedented. You know,
Yes.
you can be ahead of the curve, you can grow faster, you can do a lot more. Okay, but the area where we are struggling with is quality institutions in India, enough seats for it. While there's expansion happening, there's a lot of work being done by the government. We can see the
Yes.
NEP has worked very well. They've
Yeah.
allowed new campuses, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is very welcome, you know. But despite all of this, you also need to understand is the aspirations of going up. Look at I look at myself, I'm probably a generation which is probably ridden the liberalization boom, 1992, when it started to liberalize. We were in high school. So I started to work around the turn of the millennium. So it is my generation which has gained the most from the liberalization.
Yeah, yeah.
My generation's kids are now coming to the sector, right?
Right.
Our aspirations are a lot higher
Right.
than, let's say, what was for our parent generation.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we've seen a different side. We've
Yeah.
traveled the
we're
world.
Not surviving.
Yes.
Right, we're thriving.
Yes. Our parents are surviving. We're thriving. Exactly. And again, we've traveled the world. We know what can be done, where it is. Our aspirations are higher for ourselves. Its aspirations are higher for our family, for everybody. We want them to do better in life. So this generation, people know and they realize that, it's important to find a good path. So yes, a lot of them, everybody likes to say, okay, if I'm spending in pounds, let me recover in pounds. Spending in euros, let me recover in euros. And that theme is not going to go away,
Yeah.
But at the back of the head, there's a very strong audience. And that audience is growing with every year. I said it's my generation. With every year, my son's in 11th, and I can see my friends and everybody, which is coming with the idea is, how can I get a high quality education, and maybe come back to India. Maybe, a parallel would be China. 20 years ago, China was similar to us. Staying back was critical for them. Today, a Chinese student, the critical is, do I get a good university? Can I get a good experience?
Yeah.
And can I go back to my country where I can gain the most from it? So we're entering that cycle. So when I dissect the audience, and this is the one which we're aiming for, we've not gone in for the Masi thing where it's immigration before career.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've been focusing on career before passport, and that audience to me is not going to fall. Okay, irrespective how tight the rules can get, that audience will continue to grow.
So, while I'm talking to you, I'm also thinking about from UL lenses, right? We always been, premium,
Yes.
premium accommodation, safety, security, value for money, no shady apartments, no shady, basements, right? But, because the way we are expanding and
Yes.
with our which is more volume, not margin games, right? We need to have a volumes, but we started with premium. Now we are going budgeted,
Yeah.
but and because I've been into this market and my belief is like accommodation needs to be safe. Money is important, but it should be secondary because कितना difference आएगा 2-3 लाख का, अब 50 लाख रुपए खर्च करो 2-3 लाख, it's not a big amount. But because and last week I was in Punjab, last week I was in South.
Wow.
So I need to recycle myself, reinvent myself, right? Wherein, okay, we've been always with Russell groups, U15 and Group 8s and, best of the universities, but the numbers needs to be, in masses,
Right.
Though it's not a high margin game or volumes game, but, and even the whole market is moving from UK, Ireland, US, Australia to Europe to, to probably Germany's and, Nordics of the world.
Yeah.
Right? And it's such a, while I was talking, you have luxury and superpower, to focus on those 10,000, 5,000 quality students and do the same numbers probably others are doing by doing Canada and others, right? There's so much of soul searching for me post this podcast because this is what we've been,
Yeah.
but now we need to grow further.
Yeah,
And we have raised funds, we will be raising funds, but we are always, fortunate enough, that we are a bootstrap company, right? And with that, right now I'm confused. On camera I'm confused, but so thoughtful.
Yeah.
So thoughtful. Please Over to you.
Yeah, no, that's this. So you asked me how the market do you see it
Yeah,
grow.
yeah.
I only see it grow because I said I speak to my friends. Have the luxury in studying some top institutions in India. I told you about talked about SRCC as well. So I see this audience which is doing really well in life. But this is an audience which I also see where they feel the kids are as sharp as they are, probably even sharper.
Yeah.
But they feel they're not as they're kind of soft.
Focus.
I wouldn't say lack of focus. They're a little softer. The kind of thing that hard because
They've not moved out of home.
Yes.
Everything was available at their disposal.
Because as a 90s kid, we didn't get everything in our platter, so we had to fight for it. We had to work hard for it, right?
Very insightful.
So this is what the tier 2, tier 3 kids today are. Because they can see the world and what's there. So they come in a lot more harder and they fight harder for these spaces in IIT and IIM and everything else. And a tier 1 kid probably, and that's where a lot of parents realize, okay, my kid cannot probably make an IIT. I was an IITian, but I may not make an IIT. And I'm talking to a friend or let's say an IIM. So then they start saying is, okay, I know I have a network. If he comes back into India, I can probably introduce him to a few people where he can go and get paid interviews. He'll obviously get through in his own this thing. But at least I can make the introductory calls to ensure he gets his interviews, And to get to that interviews, he needs to have a quality education. And that audience with every year is only keep going to grow, where they will have that confidence. And again, I said, as the economy grows, those opportunities are going to keep growing anyways, It's about just having the right skill set on it.
So true.
And that audience is where and that's an audience I think is
You're very clear. You're very clear with your audience.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You're very focused.
Yes.
And this is what you believe. Yeah. This is what you are probably propagating, if I can use that word. And because you believe and you're propagating the same, there's a very clear focus and clarity of who to target, and there is that segment, and that's the beauty of India market. You will get everything.
Yes.
You will get immigration mobility.
Yeah.
You will get education mobility. Within that education mobility, you will get US also and Ireland also.
Yeah.
TCD, UCD also, and not so.
Absolutely.
Billion market, and a billion industry, and that's why probably I'd say we are so fortunate that get to learn from best of the brains who've been doing for 20 years. We are still kids, right? 7-8 years. And when you go and meet people who are like just doing 50, 100, 200 students and they're like, they know it all, and amazing. So you are saying the macros are intact, right? There's a clear segment of students and parents who are looking for quality education over just passports. Then, the market gonna be, there'll be a segment, what we have seen in China, that they will be continue to aim for Russell groups and U15s and Ivy Leagues, and then come back and probably expand their businesses or get absorbed in higher paid jobs in India because everyone's coming in India.
Yeah.
Right? What will happen to other markets? Because you have View and you've been talking to everyone, right? You have 10 branches, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. Where else you have branches, and what about those
I think
markets?
this is pretty much true with all of India. So we were in Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Chandigarh, so I said we've been pretty much pan-India, Pune. So we've seen tier 1, tier 2 kind of thing. I'll tell you, the need for high quality education is ongoing. So let's say when we entered Hyderabad, everybody said you're not going to get a traditional university student. You're going to probably go for a modern university student. Interestingly, our audience over there is I would say is all traditional university. The universities that do well over there would be Sheffield or Bristol, universities which you would not even think about would do well.
Because you got branded that way that if I want to go to Russell groups and traditionals, then Fateh.
Yes.
And that's why you're attracting, you attract your own vibe.
Maybe we're attracting that. But we also felt there was this because we were straitjacketing the city to believe everybody just wanted to move out,
Yeah, for sure.
But let's say Hyderabad, I remember my time at my IIMs, Hyderabad contributed the strongest chunk of people which came into IIM, so which means sharp people want to do it.
Yeah.
You look at these people who go into the Ivy Leagues, Hyderabad contributes a lot of that as well. So you have a lot of that audience which is study focused. It's just that we were just not ready to believe in that audience,
Even in Punjab, right?
Exactly. So Saurabh, it's not just Hyderabad, even Chandigarh, we just moved in 1 year ago. And even in that market, see, I'll tell you, as I said, hamare liye for a Delhi-based company, Chandigarh should have been one of the first cities we should have entered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason...
And even the name.
Exactly.
Your name is Fateh, and
Yes.
that will be taken very well in Punjab market. So
Yes, possibly should have been. But it's taken us 20 years to enter it. And one of the reasons it took us 20 years is because that market was straitjacketed as all immigrants.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
felt it may not be ours. Okay. It's only when you go to Hyderabad and realize there's a different
Not
audience.
necessarily, yeah.
And they said, okay, we believe Chandigarh would be. And when you start thinking about it, Chandigarh, the original inhabitants, retired bureaucrats, retired top, defense professionals, top companies. You have, today we have the likes, the big IT companies that have campuses over there. You have ISP Hyderabad. You have a lot of those things which are around. ISP's Chandigarh branch on there. So again, that audience, the core Chandigarh, we felt would have both the aspiration and the rigor to take the top institutions.
Totally agree.
And you would not believe it. The first student we did out of Chandigarh was Manchester.
Totally agree.
And we've kind of had a great run, and that's one of the reasons why I said we're now moving to a bigger space. Is because we feel confident that today, without diluting what we stand for, we can build numbers over there.
Totally agree. And that's the beauty of India, right?
Yeah.
So because we work with so many accommodation partners, so we get the same thing that
Yeah.
you will get 700, 800 pounds a week, and you will have 500 pounds a month.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
So whatever market you want to cater, and being a marketplace, we are very pretty, in a very good spot wherein, we have premiums, we are budgeted.
Yes.
And very interesting.
Yeah.
So anything which you want to highlight, for your peer groups, for your university friends, or partners like us, how to navigate this consolidation phase first. Second, spending 20 years, and have seen, I guess, almost all, right? We have not seen 2001 September in US,
No.
but post that you have seen everything.
Everything, yes.
Right? So you have seen the high, you have seen the lows, and you still maintain and steadily growing. Being a bootstrap, have a money, have a luxury of being money rich and profitable. You have 15, 20 people with you for 15, 20 years. It's like a yes, your happy movie, right? What to chase? This, or there are people who have grown really fast.
Yeah.
And then really made lots of money, but then also fell, instantly, or their names been coming in anything, everything.
Right.
How to manage it, how to balance it.
I think sort of it's more about the internal thing. What are you really want in your this thing? I said, for me, it was very clear. I said, if in my struggling years, we didn't prioritize money. Again, we are in a sector where, if you want to make money, it's the easiest thing to do,
I was telling to my co-founder that, और मैंने यही लैंग्वेज बात की थी, मैंने कहा यार हम झक मार रहे थे, हम क्यों नहीं अभी तक बाहर निकले, we focus on the right thing and all that, but at the same time that's our DNA. And with the industry there's lots of easy things to do but not the right things to do. And then with a very close knitted fraternity, and anyone who, like, if someone sneezes, you get to know what's happening. It's a choice.
Yes.
It's a choice. You want to make money, you can make money in 5 years.
Yes.
If you want to create brand and money and impact.
Yes.
I keep telling my team that, guys, and I was a banker, and I tell everyone, 2 साल banking करके देखो, मैंने तो बैंक अकाउंट बेचा है, डीमेट अकाउंट बेचा है, इंश्योरेंस बेचा है. I'm like, एक बार वो करो and then come back to this industry and say, this is so easy. You are creating money and impact. Not many, industries where you can create money and impact.
Yes.
And enjoy also.
Exactly.
You get to travel.
Yes.
You get to attend all the 5 stars and 7 stars stays and events. How many industry, and then there's a mostly Saturdays off, or at least hospitality we have seen, right?
Yes.
They work so hard. Right? And still when people crave in the industry, I'm like, who do banking?
Oh yes, I agree, and I think for us it's always in social impact. For me, my team, I don't think we've ever looked at diluting that. Obviously, the challenge comes is as we keep growing, and obviously, who doesn't want to keep growing, is to ensure that doesn't get diluted. The fact is, it does get diluted. It takes a lot of effort to ensure you kind of keep the core, you keep the essence behind the company. That should not go, because as you
and
grow,
what do you do to ensure that remain intact? okay, let's say now you have 500 people team, for example, right? Your core team is 15. You are very intact.
Right.
But managing 10 branches, 200, 500 people, who come from industry with all the baggages or whatnot.
Right.
What you do, which ensure that core, that up straight right things is being incurred and followed.
Yes. See, Saurabh, I think it's just about proper communication back to the team. It's important the right people at the right places. I think I still am involved in probably 95% of the recruitment decisions, even at the smallest level. If as far as possible, I'll try and interview. Okay.
So yeah, you were talking about how you maintain that right approach, not only with your core team but also with your ever expanding team.
Yes.
You mentioned that you've been engaged in hiring, and then communication is very important, right? But still, when you have 200, 300 people team, they're coming from all kind of backgrounds, all kind of baggages, coming from all kind of companies, because end of the day, you will be hiring someone for the other, How you ensure that in spite of all these hurdles, still, the Fateh value system is in place.
I'll tell you, Saurabh, that's obviously the most difficult aspect. I think for me, that's the biggest challenge. I wouldn't say I've solved it. I think with every 50 people you add, the challenge will come back. You solve it for now, and you realize you've grown another 25, 50 people, and you realize you have to handle it differently. So this has been an ongoing challenge from the early days to say, how do you ensure your vision goes down to the last person? They understand the need for it. And I think to a large extent, it self-solves, because if you have your core team, which has been on it, who believe in it, and the people who keep coming on and keep adding on to it. So when anybody fresh comes in, they probably look around what is happening, So that one part of it gets solved over there. But somewhere you have to make a conscious effort that people understand and they realize what are we standing for, what are the metrics. Again, I said, how do we measure their performances? What do we talk about it? Again, the idea would be I try and that at least once a year, I speak to everyone in the organization. It takes a while. It takes me 2 months. So I have to put aside everything for 2 months and go about it and keep going after it, because spend that hour with everybody, understanding what's there.
Like everybody.
Everywhere,
branch
everybody.
Heads or even
everybody. Doesn't matter what level you are at. You could be
in
just
person or
join.
online?
In person. So that means travel, it means this thing. But somewhere that's what I've been doing now. I don't know how much can I scale it up further, because 2 months is already a lot of time.
And this is like what, 5-10 minute slot or half an hour?
Oh, I take at least half an hour.
Half an hour.
At least half an hour. In some places where the people who want to talk, we spend an hour and a half or two. I never put a timer until the person says I'm done.
Wow. You're very clear. You're very clear what you're building.
Yeah. So I said, बहुत important है कि what you need, And you asked me, why are we not raising money? Because I know the moment I have money, I have different metrics to follow, And I'm not saying I won't take it in the future.
Yeah, never.
It just means is at this point, I don't think I would like to, because again, 21, 22 were golden years. Would have been very easy to pick up tons of money,
even
at your terms.
Probably, rather than that 3.5 week which you take off, you would you still have the opportunity, like, okay, set it off in X number of multiples. You have contracts, and that's what's happening,
No, we got approached quite a few times.
I'm sure.
Approached quite a few times. I think, no, because, it's something I enjoy. Well, sort of, if I sell it, I still am going to work, right?
Same thought.
If I'm going to work, why not do something? Exactly.
I need to start again.
Yes.
What will I do with that money? And again, think of a new idea. And spend another 20 years.
Yes.
Totally with you. I guess we,
Yes, exactly.
We had the same
something which gives you
today.
happiness, It's something you're enjoying, right? You're doing well in it, you're enjoying it. Why change it?
And then there's enough meat in the industry.
Yes.
People sell when they believe, okay, done, ho gaya industry, ho gaya tech. See, this I need to ask from you. You've been working with us, right? And you've been supporting of us, as an accommodation partner. What advice, suggestions you would like to give a company like us, which is not very in a fancy space, but needs to do something which someone needs to do. Someone needs to get their hands dirty. Someone needs to take care of accommodation part of it, or post-admission part of it, even if it's not that lucrative or meaty, but there's volumes. And there is something which, someone needs to take care, and that's why and thank you, to you, Ashish, everyone, for believing and supporting us. Any feedback, any suggestions?
Oh, no, I think Saurabh, you're doing a fantastic job. Again, one of the reasons we don't work with many partners, I think you know that. Again, we're very choosy with who would like to work with and all. We like the work your team does. Again, you're bridging a major gap because, again, we've seen the industry grow. We've seen that point where students would just go with a 3-day hotel accommodation, land up over there and run around trying to find accommodation because it was either the university accommodation or nothing. And university accommodation was not for everybody. For some, they probably wanted something more basic. Some wanted something more luxurious. Again, it's an individualistic requirement. I think what you stepped in, I think you fulfilled a very significant need and the gap in the market. It's just not filling it up. I think you're probably doing a great job with it, and I think that probably reflects in your growth as well. Because we've seen you over the last 7 years. We've seen how you worked on it, and I think my team loves working with you as well. So that's fantastic work done, Saurabh.
And some critical feedback. Thank you for saying so good thing on camera, right? My team gonna love it. But as someone who's always trying to strive and getting better, and I know everything is not hunky dory, and we're not perfect,
right?
And especially in the industry we're in, we have solved for premium accommodation. Now we're solving for budget accommodation. We're solving for flexible. Now we're solving in US and Canada, right? But still, at time I feel, why I'm doing it, let me do into admission, do few hundred students, and the same money, but there's so many challenges we need to solve, and probably, now that builder in me is pushing me, this piece to be solved, right?
Yes.
But someone from you who've been doing for 20 and you have seen everything, any critical feedback, anything which you believe we need to surely work and solve that puzzle of, especially post-admission, housing.
See, I'll tell you, Saurabh, I think you're already looking at it. For me, if you'd asked me before we spoke today, I would have said probably look at more at budget and things like these because, we have all kind of people who come in, people who stretch themselves, and they're looking at this thing, and accommodation, eats away a large chunk of the money they have. And it kind of sometimes, because when the accommodation cost goes up, it becomes that they're forced into part-time work. It becomes, should I spend more time working or should I spend more time studying? And you don't want that thing to come in, and that budget accommodation helps. Exists, but again, that was harder for these students to find it. The fact that you're adding that, not having it earlier was my criticism. But now that you're having it, I think you're already solving that aspect because what you're allowing the students, because many of them who would have dropped their plans because all they saw was expensive accommodation, is to say, okay, let me go about it. So I think you're already you're on just there. So again, my wish list has already been taken care of.
Thank you. And with technology, because you have seen the industry from where it was manual, still lots of things are manual. How you are leveraging technology, and anything which in your wish list, from universities or from partner like us or any of your other partners, which you would like to see from a technology point of view, and how you have embraced technology at Fateh so far.
Okay, so Saurabh, as you said, because 23 years in the sector, I've seen it all. We've seen where applications used to be coded across. So and then moving into a fax thing, then to an email thing. We remember where there was anything we needed to wait to learn about the institution, we had to wait for somebody to come in from the institution, or we need to go there. Team a point where offer letters, we would get a bunch of offer letters together, and we had to wait. Okay, this month's offer letter bunch is going to come in now. So we've seen the industry evolve when it comes to tech. Even for us, I would like to believe we've kind of using it. I don't like to call ourselves an edtech. I still like to believe that we are still enablers for students, but we like to use our tech well. We are, I would say, we have a lot of these small tools we've developed in-house proprietary, which help us with that. You probably might have heard about our events, how we kind of match students to the right universities. So it's not an open house. It's that students have meaningful conversations. Again, one of the reasons when you do an event, look at how many meaningful conversations can we make on the day rather than how many students who walk in on that day, So if that was the idea, how do we ensure our tech manages meaningful conversations, It's about, if we are looking at how do we ensure they're going into the right universities, how do we ensure people are picking it up, that it's not being made just to meet targets, but there are students being fed to the right. So again, we have tech working towards that. How does the application system flow? How do we ensure, we centralize admissions rather than decentralize, and we work with the centers? And how do we ensure, meet each other's use each other's strengths without having to duplicate it. So we've built small tools. I wouldn't say they're massive ones. We use the regular ones which are around, and we kind of build on top of it and trying to incorporate all of them into a single thing. So I'd like to believe we've done fantastically well with technology.
And I believe I can see in your philosophy that, tech with a human touch is waste, especially in this industry. So there are lots of people who like tech, but with the ticket size, with the impact we're talking, technology should be enabler.
Yes.
Then it's not deep tech, right?
Yeah.
It just needs to be enabler and tech with a human touch.
Yes.
How you are ensuring your counselors are getting better, they are getting more information, they are more efficient. If you're able to solve that, I guess we are good in this industry.
Exactly. So I said, I think tech needs to fulfill what you're trying to aim or what you're trying to solve.
So Suneet, let's come on a last phase, and it seems we've been speaking for last 2 hours. It means that like we can talk to another 2 hours. That's what so much of wisdom and experience you've been sitting on. In the industry, now collaboration is key. We all been collaborating. Collaborating with universities, education partners,
Right.
Service partners like us. How do any message to the industry that what to do?
Yeah.
On collaboration. And do you think in the industry collaboration exists? Because so far it has not been that collaborative. Like probably fintech, or probably e-commerce. Because that's how they have created the ecosystem.
Right.
In India, in this industry, still there's lots of competition. There's lots of cutthroat. There's lots of back mouthing, if I may say that.
See, Saurabh, I am of a very strong opinion that competition doesn't mean you don't work together.
Yeah.
We compete at certain levels, but I think it's important to kind of go back and say there are a lot of things which you cannot solve independently. So you need support of everybody. Let's say Islanders. We talked about Islanders market. As much as I'd like to say I built it, the fact is that the only ones who's talking about Island soon shouldn't go. Ultimately, we needed support from all the others to come in, and we did talk to many and say, people came into us, how do we do this, where it is. There are many people, I don't know if you've heard, know this or not, Mentor Circle, we brought them into the sector. Go Islanders, again, we got them to understand how Island works, again, and in the past as well. So the whole idea for us is that while they would have been competition, they are competition, but that does not stop us from trying to train them or to build them up to where we were. I remember with Mentor Circle, we helped them get their first few contract. I spoke to the university, so they give it to them. For Go Island, again, I remember the first 1 or 2 contracts. I actually told the university, you need to work with them as well. And the past, companies which are already existing, they've reached out and how do you handle those visas? How do you handle this? And I've been very open with the fact that this is how it is. Because if I had to build Island, I needed people who did it alongside me.
It's like increasing a pie rather than having a full pie of like being an owner of 1 rupee or probably being a part of 1,000 rupee.
Yes,
it always makes sense. But it's easier said but done.
Easier said than done. I agree. But I'm a strong believer that competing doesn't mean you do not cooperate. Example is another one which has said one of the big reasons for our success. Our partnership Trizac and Fateh, 17 years, still thick. Hopefully, should continue.
Of course.
We compete at certain levels, yet we coordinate at certain levels, help both of us grow. So I am of a very firm opinion. Best growth comes in when you collaborate.
Yeah, collaborate with healthy competition.
Healthy competition. Obviously, we're not eliminating competition. We're not saying you don't compete against me. We just say is, okay, where are the things which are common issues to all of us? Can we solve it together?
Makes so much sense. Last question, and then we'll jump into rapid. So let me jump into rapid round, and then we'll do the last bit, right? So one book or movie or person that changed your perspective.
Movie, book, or person. Okay. Movie for me would be Matrix, the red or the blue pill. Person for me would be my professor in IIM, BB Chakravarti, BBC, as we called him. His one line, I think, changed everything for me because he said, when you are my age, there are no success or failure. There are only good memories or bad. Okay. That stage, I thought good memories means successes, bad memories mean failures. But I think over life, you realize it's a different thing altogether. And that's kind of stuck with me. And I think for me, that's probably changed me a lot.
It's very deep.
Yeah, it's very deep.
Very deep.
Very deep.
Very
and that
deep.
one line, I think, changed everything for me.
Very deep. It seems like I'm getting a mentorship, and I'm so happy that getting to talk to you. If not education consulting, what career would have you pursued?
Travel agent.
Yeah, for not sure. Investment banking for sure not.
No, travel agent. I
Why
love
so?
to travel.
Why-
I love to travel. I love to, something like this. I loved being a travel agent.
One myth about studying abroad, if you would like to burst.
That's only for the rich.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. One thing students often overlook when planning to study abroad.
Significance of the city they're going to study. When to pick up big city and when to pick a small city. You tend to leave it towards the bigger ones like a London or something, but London is not for everybody. Assumption is big city means less crime, smaller cities is more crime, but it's actually the other way around. Also, big city means people assume that big city it's going to be easier to settle down, but remember, big city means people are all busy in their own lives. Everybody runs in a different direction. So if you're somebody introvert, you probably need a smaller city. So I think this is probably something we notice students don't pay so much emphasis on, but I think the city makes a big difference in where you would settle. If you will settle down, how well you will do.
City is like a character.
Yes, so I think this
City is like a friend.
it's a friend, absolutely.
Your proudest moment at Fateh.
Sorry, what's my?
Your proudest moment at Fateh.
My proudest moment at Fateh. Okay, this is also an inspiration moment for me. The first year we started with Ireland, we went around everywhere doing a lot of these fairs because at that time we had these offline, times and everything else. We did a lot of marketing through the year and we spoke to hundreds of students through the year. Okay. And I told the story to people, but we ended up sending only one person, just one person. After the entire 1 year, one person. But why was it proud? Because it was my counselor's brother. Okay. Which to me was, she's seen me every day in, day out. She knows we've not been lying. She knows we've been honest and we know what we're telling them is where it is. Some of it she realized we lost it because we were too honest. But probably that is what she brought somebody out and said, she says, he needs to go through you. He was not planning to study abroad because I've learned so much from you. Please guide him and send him abroad. For me, that was a very proud moment.
The very last bit. Your proudest moment in life.
Okay, proudest moment in life, I think there are plenty. I think, you have life moments, you have kids, your wife, all of those things. Which, my one moment in life. I have never looked at it that way, but I have a series of events. I don't think I ever looked at one thing and said, that's me.
Great. Thank you, Suneet. Thank you for your time and being so patient. I would say. And learn so much. And probably we have to do a part 2. So we will not touch all the technical stuff which all the learning which right now we are just like a phase 1, it's just a part 1, it's Bahubali part 1. Part 2 needs to come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Saurabh. That's been so nice.
Thank you so much.